How's it going, folks? I'm Matthew, this is Lemora's Cards, and today we're going to be talking about God of Commander 12, the newest event over in Japan. These are always a crowd favorite. I love getting to look at these. This is the thing that breaks me out of mini retirement whenever I get bored with this format, which was kind of where I was this past week. Just have absolutely nothing to talk about. And this event came and has given me so many ideas on different decks I want to talk about and build myself and different cards to check out. This has actually been a really exciting one. This event has probably my favorite deck I've ever got to cover, but this is a large event over in Japan. They have a little bit different of a tournament structure, and they have a wild metagame. If you haven't checked out any of these before, I've covered like 5 of them, 6 of them at this point. You can check out those videos, but today we're going over the newest one. It's just finished today, really this past night. I'm so excited to cover this. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, let me know down below which of these deck lists are your favorite. I have a pretty good idea what the deck of the video is going to be on this one. Hey, you might have a different one than me, and I haven't looked through all of these super closely yet because I like to be able to react to them, so there may be something else here that stands out. Hey folks, normally at this point in the video, I'd be promoting an event or plugging my whatnot, but recently, Raven and Spooky, 2 great members of the cEDH community that I know personally, had their entire deck stolen while attending an event. They're currently running a GoFundMe to help replace the cards that were taken from them, and if you could support them with a donation of any size or simply by sharing this, it would be greatly appreciated. You can find the link to that in the description below. Unfortunately, so far with these events, they have never given us the full dump of deck lists. It's just the ones that make top cut, but we do get all the information on the decks that were submitted. And we've had these for a couple of these now. We've definitely seen an adaptation over there. Fortunately, unfortunately, whatever. It's looking like Tymna is the best thing to do, and we're starting to see it become more popular over there. I think before we've seen like Derevi be the most popular deck. TNK has done incredibly well. It's won a lot. The God of Commander I've covered the most, you're the winner of this event, they get that title, has played Tymna at every single one of these events and has destroyed people, but the deck still wasn't like this super dominant thing. And even here, it's a little bit under 10% of the field, so it's not crazy, but we are starting to see, you look at the top, it is Tymna Thras and Tymna Kraum as the most popular decks. Then we see Derevi, which has just been incredibly popular over there, and then a decent bit of a fall off Kinnan, Tivit, Dahada, and then we have Vivi, the first event over there for this. This is actually pretty small showing for Vivi, I feel like. Only 4 in a 150 player event. And then Helga, which I'm going to get into because one of them, spoiler alert, is in our top cut, and I don't know anything about this deck. I'm going to be figuring out with you guys. So you can see it's actually a really diverse meta for the most part. You have a couple top heavy ones. Some that stand out is stuff like Sisay isn't very popular over there. Rograkh and Thrasios, essentially that archetype hasn't popped up in these events at all until today, which is something I'm really excited about. We get to see Japanese take on what a big mana cradle deck could look like. But here we just see so much different stuff. Iron Man, Rograkh is very popular. Decks like Rograkh are not incredibly popular, but do pop up there. We have just 3 Rog Thrases, a few Najeelas, Urza, but you just see tons of different stuff. Hesa Karlov, Ashaya, Celeste. Also, it's really fun to go through and do the names. My favorite still is probably Clark without a thumb. But yeah, you can go through, look at the full metagame breakdown. Then we get a really cool thing that I wish they would do over here more often at events, which is profiles on the top 12 players. Again, we'll go over the structure of this event, why there's top 12, and just ask them a couple questions about their community, where they play, how they've done in events so far, and then, what they played, what decks were doing well. Like he played Yuriko. He said Louis Swa Sacrifice was the best card, best performer of the day. And a lot of them said Edric did quite well. There must have been a Edric player who was tearing people up and didn't quite get there, or maybe some VVs were playing Edric or something. But yeah, you can go through here. Najeela playing Mystic Lemora, I was impressed with. Rocco. TNT player said Necro was the best thing. He was really impressed with how Thras was doing in the event. Another person saying Edric was terrorizing. This one really confused me. Tymna Kraum said the best card in their deck was Nadu. Nadu impressed them. I don't know what to tell you. Nadu and TNK, not a lot of people were trying it. So if this is the first one of these that you've seen, talking about the God of Commander events, the way that these are structured is you have a large Swiss, just like events over here do. Players start with, I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say they have like 1,000 points. So if you win a game, you get a percentage of the points that the rest of the pod has. If the game ends in a draw, then the entire pod loses a percentage of their points. Very much encourages you to proactively push for wins. Very much not playing to draws. And the games are also, I think, pretty shorter over there with their time limits. At the end of the rounds of Swiss, the 12 players who have the most points will make it to day 2, top cut. They cut to top 12 because the previous winner, or the previous commander god, in this case was the Najeela player that I covered last time, who won the last event. They get to skip straight to top 4. So we cut to top 12, where there are 3 pods that each play their top 12 game. And then those 3 winners will face off against the previous commander god, and they will fight to see who is the new god of commander. I think with all that being said, we can finally get into these deck lists. So for this one, again, we have no top deck, so we're back to Moxfield. Almost as nostalgic at this point. And the first one we got is a pretty interesting one, and that's Malcolm Thrasios. This is a list that it's kind of odd because I have been thinking lately about the idea of trying to use Malcolm in a green shell and do the big cradle thing, whether that would be Teamer Malcolm with Tana or like a Sultai Malcolm deck or whatever. But I kept having the same issue. It's like, there's not really a mana outlet for the Malcolm stuff. And if you go out of red, you no longer have Glinthorn Buccaneer. But what I really was thinking is like, what if Rograkh basically had like a Malcolm? Like, how would you make that? But I didn't really cross my mind and just say like, okay, we'll just Malcolm Thras. This deck doesn't really lean that hard into the Malcolm part of the deck though. It is really just saying like, hey, I want to do Simic big mana, and I'm not as interested in what Rograkh's offering me in terms of free stuff, which is correct or not, whatever, that's the way they're doing it. Now, I think what I might do, because this list interests me so much, and I have so many ideas around a deck like this, and the Rograkh that we're going to get to cover towards the end, definitely stay for that one, or even if you get bored at some point in this video, please watch the Rograkh part. Go down to the chapter and watch it, but stay to the end anyways. I do wish they leaned a little bit more into the Pirates, but let's go into it. This, like I mentioned, is very much the first one of these events where we're seeing the big mana, Sam Black, Rograkh archetype that we know of breakthrough. They are using Malcolm, obviously, but the only pirate they're using is Siren Stormtamer. Literally, that's it. No other pirates. I think you could lean a little bit more into it. There's probably a little better card quality, and there's not really anything combo-wise with him either. He's just there to make mana. I might take some of the decks from this and try to build my own, I guess, Americanized version. If you're interested in that, let me know down below. But we have a bunch of dorks, Stormtamer, some clones, Biomancer's Familiar, Cloud of Fairies, Nantuko, stuff you're really used to seeing in like the Rograkh, Simic, Cradle Farm stuff over here, Micro Spawn, stuff like that. And then they're going bigger, this is something that I haven't got to cover much of, but it is something we see over here a little bit. And that's with cards like Peregrine Drake, which is like Cloud of Fairies, but for 5 mana. And then we see pretty popular over here is Palinchron, which is a 7 mana version of this effect that enters on top of the 7 lands. And then you can spend 2 blue, return it to your hand. This on its own can go infinite. It is a little tricky to get 4 blue, but these deck lists are like higher land count, also just taking advantage of like flicker effects too. And we're even going to see like other cards in this cycle, like Great Whale later, where they're really leaning into this. This is something I've tried, and some of these other effects we'll get to too, but they're really testing out this whole cycle of Urza's block cards that untap lands, and they're having success over there. We also got Archaic, Seedborn, and Colossal Sky Turtle. Wandering Archaic pops up here every now and then. It's not super popular, but it is a pretty powerful card, and it's always in like the considering for these kind of decks. I like the sorceries. So we got Green Suns, Nature's Rhythm, Sylvan Scrying. One thing you're gonna note is no Finale of Devastation. And in general, I think that card is just like a little less popular in the types of lists of this archetype that we're looking at. Why? I don't know. Nature's Rhythm is like a million times better. And very, very, very notable, Aboro Breeze Caller has not caught on in Japan. One of the lists, maybe it would not make sense, but here I'm running Breeze Caller every day of the week. It's absolutely broken. I don't know if it's that they tested it and didn't like it, which I think is almost impossible. I feel like it has to be that they just don't know. Like, I can very safely say that Aboro Breach Caller is one of the most broken cards in our format, and it is incorrect to be doing that. So this list, first upgrade I'm making is Breach Callers going in. But we're on Hidden Strings, which I do think is actually really powerful. I'm back on it and I love it. So we got cards like Summoner's Pact, which aren't too popular over here, and then the Flicker type effects that I mentioned. Essence Flux, which is an actual flicker. String of Disappearances is a cool one I didn't know existed, which is a blue instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Then that creature's controller may pay blue. If they do, they can copy it. It's like a Chain of Vapor, but it's more like Chain Lightning with how the paying works. I think if you are Flash enabled, are they even on E-Zone? No. I know that there's definitely combos you could do if you get to play at instant speed, where you could net infinite mana by flashing in creatures that are untapping multiple lands, like Peregrine Drake and Palinchron or whatever. So it is a pretty interesting option. The interactive suite's a little different. So we got Dispel, Strict Serenade, Cameo Safekeeping, Arcane Denial, Mana Drain, which is kind of interesting if you're more controlling Thras deck. It's really interesting because it's almost constructed like there is a Malcolm combo here, which they are like creature combos you want to protect, like people trying to get rid of your Palinchron when you activate it, because that is like 4 mana, and then it doesn't, as part of the cost, go to your hand. So you can protect it with like a Tymna safekeeping. Really interesting one, Admiral's Order, which is a cancel 3-mana counter spell. But if you attack with a creature this turn, you can pay just a blue instead. And then we got Blue Flare, Frantic Surge, which has been great, Force, MBT, Repudiate, and Replicate. I think this is awesome tech that I did not know about. So you've got a split card, which is for 2 Simic mana on one half of it. Counter target activated or triggered ability, which is kind of niche, but being able to pay 2 green for interaction and being able to deal with stuff that you might not normally get to be able to interact with is kind of nice, because the other half of it is just a 3-mana clone effect. 1 green blue, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. I really like having a proactive mode on a reactive spell like this. This is like great tech that I'm definitely going to test out. And then we also have Submerge, which green is pretty popular at this event. On very often, just a pretty good reactive card that you can use proactively, interestingly, because you can do something like Cloud of Fairies, untap, get a bunch of mana. I mean, if it's very mana positive, you could just submerge that Cloud of Fairies on top of your deck and then activate Thrasios or draw through another way, especially if like a Biomaster's Familiar in play. This could just be like 2 mana, redraw your Cloud of Fairies. Artifacts very low on the count. We're seeing like a no Mox Diamond. This is a non-proxy event, so take that in mind. Map, Soul Ring. No One Ring here. One Ring is very popular in Japan. Enchantments, we've got Fish, Training Grounds, Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth, and we're seeing these cradle focused lists go very heavy, looking like a lot more like some of the older Rograkh lists. Fertile Ground, which is like a Utopia Sprawl, but it's any color for 2 mana. Overgrowth, which is 3 mana, and then they get an extra 2 green when you tap the land. And then Market Festival, which I didn't know existed, which is 4 mana, and you get 2 mana in any combination of colors. We also have the Earthcraft here, probably coolest, which this is another one that I've really wanted to test, and that's Treachery, just 5 mana. When it comes into play on top of the 5 lands, you control enchanted creature. Lines up perfectly with the Rograkh thing. ETB untap 5 lands makes it a free spell at worst, and probably mana positive with the way that these decks are constructed, especially with these. You could easily make like 10 mana off of casting a Treachery and take somebody's creature. Super, super cool tech. 31 lands, we got Alchemist Refuge. So we do have Flash. I forgot to check for the Refuge. So we do have Flash combos potentially for our String of Disappearances. We are in Deserted Temple here. This one not on Manamo. Homeward Path was kind of popular in this event. I'm not quite sure why, but I don't think there were that many Drakes, but we'll see. And Urza Saga here. Nothing else that wild. Urza Saga not, I mean, it just gets mapped. No Candelabra in this list, which again, that one is quite believable as a, yeah, I don't have a Candelabra for this non-proxy event. That one I could see. This is a list I really want to mess around with, leaning more into a treasure-focused Cradle Farm Thras list. If you're interested in how that comes out or seeing me try to retool some of these deck lists, let me know and I might make a video on that. Use the link in the description below to download Whatnot, and you'll get $15 to use to buy Magic singles, sealed product, get anything that you want, really. There's no limits. You just get $15 on the account for free just for signing up. Use the link in the description below. Give Whatnot a try. Next up, we're looking at Edric, another Simic list. Edric, Spymaster of Trust. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may draw a card. Commander that has basically completely fallen off over in the American metagame and still does pop up fairly regularly in Japan. Notably, this is a symmetrical effect, so if your TNK opponent attacks with their Tymna, they draw a card off Tymna and off Edric, so you can really fuel the table, but you're hopefully built to do it better than they do. So we got lots of mana dorks, including Molt Tender, we haven't seen too much of in this format, but a little bit. Haywire Might popping up here. We do have a Gilded Drake, Ghostly Pilferer, staple of 2019 cEDH, Malevolent Hermit, Lotus Cobra. Ooh, okay, there's some cool stuff here. Polywog Prodigy, sure. Spell Stutter Sprite is cool. When it comes into play, counter target spell with created mana cost X or less. X is the number of fairies you control. By default, that'll be 1. So this is 2 mana. Flash creature that's going to counter a 1 or a 0. You also have Brazen Borrower as another fairy, and I think that's it. Could be interesting, especially if we had a couple more fairies. But yeah, we got the Volatile Stormdrake and the Gilded here. Brazen Borrower as our one other fairy. Fear of Imposters, which is 3 mana flash. When it enters, counter target spell, its controller manifests dread. And we also see the Tidebinder Subtlety. So really liking the effects that are bodies that are harder to interact with, that are going to disrupt our opponents. Fear of Imposters might be the most efficient one of these types of effects, but that one could be an interesting one to rock in a lower color list. Enduring Curiosity lines up exactly with what this deck is trying to do. Play lots of creatures to the board, draw lots of cards. And then Emrakul, this is tech from Japan as far as I know. You know, when I first started these like a year or two ago, this is how you break up a mid-range game, and we're starting to see this has transferred over to the US meta a lot more lately. Sorceries, Edric is really known as an extra turns deck. Temporal Manipulation, Time Warp, all of those type of effects, Karn Temporal Sundering, basically basically all extra turn spells, Seagate Restoration, a single tutor, and Green Sun Zenith. Again, no finale here, not even a Nature's Rhythm. But I think we have less like crazy impact must tutor 4 creatures in this deck. Like these are just like derpy little guys that advance us, but I don't really want to spend like an extra 2 mana on them other than the Gilded Drakes probably. You know, maybe Enduring Curiosity if I really got it like that. Notorious Throng, isn't that also an extra turn? If you prowl, yeah, you prowl. So, oh, but it also lets us make other fairies. It's 4 mana, where X is the damage dealt to your opponent's. Okay, so we do have a little bit of fairy stuff, and it does let us prowl by having the 2 fairies in the deck. Okay, that's pretty cool. Instance, we got the Crop Rot, normal interactive stuff, Strict Serenade, which seems to be more popular over there. We also got a Daze. Desculpting Blast, return target online permanent to its owner's hand. If it was attacking, create a 1/1 colorless artifact token it's a 2 mana thing that you bounce something that's attacking, you get an extra 1/1. Kind of odd. Disrupting Shoal, free interaction we see pop up. Really prioritizing lots of free interaction because we're drawing tons of cards, right? Flare, Force, MBT, Commandeer, Submerge, Misdirection, and then we got Nexus of Fate, of course. Gotta get more extra turns in there. First Staff of Completion of the video. Might see more of those, we'll see. Again, pretty low on the artifacts. We're not seeing a lot of the green decks run a ton of these. Mask of Memory, whenever they equip creature deals common damage to a player, draw 2 cards, and then you can discard a card, doing lots of that. And then we are in the One Ring. Again, I still have not really figured out why Staff of Completion is good. It's quite flexible. It lets you spend your life to draw cards, and you can pump mana into it to do more, but I don't know. It beats me, basically. Enchantments, we've got Carpet, Sprawl, Wild Growth, Sylvan Library, pretty popular right there so far. 2 for 2, and then Mystic Ristic. 32 lands again. If this is the first one of these you've watched, high land counts are quite popular in Japan. I think I've covered this Edric list before, and they said Grasping Dunes was one of the top performers. I don't know. The Seiju who shelters all to get uncountable instants or sorceries makes sense in an extra turns deck. We are on the Talon Gates, Saga, Waterlogged Grove, Island, Mistred's Village. All right. Next up, we got Helga. Let's figure this out together. For Bant, you get a 1/3 Frog Druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain a life, and put a +1/+1 counter on Helga. Then you can tap Helga to add X mana of any one color, where X is Helga's power. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater, or creature spells with X in their mana cost. We have 44 creatures, good lord. So we got to cast big creatures to be able to pump up Helga to get a bunch of mana to cast more big creatures. So you got Walking Ballista, which we can use as an outlet or as an X spell. Lots of mana dorks to help pay for our stuff. We got the Bloom Tender, Cloud of Fairies. Cannon's going to be great here. Fabro Elder, so super loaded on dorks. 2 of the 2-drop clones. Oh, we got Plagon. Oof, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Generous Patron. This card is not one I really thought about much, but after looking at this and then the Rograkh list that we're going to look at later, playtesting with it a little bit, I think this card might be really underplayed and might actually be quite good in these Cradle Focus Simic Plus list. The expected floor of this card a lot of times is going to be 3 mana, you get a 1/4, it enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on 2 opponent's creatures, you draw 2 cards. 3 mana and get a body and draw 2 cards is already pretty good, especially being green in these Cradle decks. Like thinking about this in context of, you know, an American Rograkh list, being able to turn a little bit of green mana into a body and card advantage is quite nice, and it scales so well with clones. Generous Patron into Metamorph Patron, draw 4. Yeah, I actually am very excited about playing with this card, and I wish I got to play with Plagon. I'd play it in Rograkh if I could. Altered Ego is a card that I haven't really seen much of at all until this event also, but makes sense here because it is an X spell clone that we still don't have to spend a ton of mana on to be able to do anything with, and it's uncounterable. So it's 2 green-blue, can't be countered, have it enter as a copy of another creature, but you can basically kick it essentially for X to give it extra counters. Bramble Sovereign is 2 green-green. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 to green. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. I forgot about this card. It's probably good. I'm going to add that to my list of Rograkh cards to maybe look at. That's really similar, if you think about it, to like a Springheart Nantuko that is bestowed on something. It doesn't get the extra, you know, insects that it's making, but it also applies to every other creature. You don't have to have a good one now. Like you just play this and then the Cloud of Fairies, stack the triggers, untap first, spin the Bramble mana, make another one, get an extra 2 untaps. That could just be great. Also just works with cards like Plagon, Die to Legend Rule, but you'll just look at the extra card draw. Scales really well with a lot of these things. There's a lot of cool overlap here. I really like that. Clever Impersonator, we're seeing a lot of now. Emil can Let's Go Infinite. We got Felidar Guardian. Miss Hollow Griffin. Are we a food chain deck? We are a food chain deck. Do we do anything with that? Not on Helga, but we can do stuff like net infinite food chain mana and put it into Walking Ballista. This is not the only value, in quotes, food chain that we're going to see this event. So that's kind of interesting, not having like a proper outlet. Oh, we do. I'm dumb, chat. Helga, if we have Helga, and Miss Hollow Griffin is a 4-drop. You guys can stop yelling at the monitors. Yeah, we just draw our deck. Okay, never mind. It's not value. I'm not smart. Metamorph, Radagast the Brown. Again, kind of on my watch list now. 4 mana. When it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top X cards of your library, X that creature's mana value. You may reveal a creature card that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control from among those cards and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The most awkward part of this card probably is that it's a wizard. She's a frog druid. So you are undoing a couple types, but I think this guy's pretty good, especially in decks that are going to be playing creatures that are cheaper than they look, like Avatar of Growth, which is going to cost 3 less, as long as we have 3 opponents. And ramp us. Stuff like Quantum Riddler, which is going to see 5 cards off of Radagast. This looks like it could be an Up the Beanstalk deck. I do think this thing's a pretty good engine. It is a little awkward in some of the decks like the Rograkh and some other stuff where some of the best cards you could hit are wizards, and there is some overlap on the types, but there's not too many merfolk, but especially you already have a human and this is a wizard. I could see it being a little awkward, but it might be a card to consider. Micah Spawn, Vocalist to double ETB, Stunt double, quite popular over there. Subtlety for more interaction. We got Chew Lame. This deck is ridiculous, by the way. Whenever you cast a creature, draw a card, put a land into play. Karuga, which is just going to ETB, draw a card for each other expensive permanent that we have. There's a lot of them. Muldrifter, Peregrine Drake, Quantum Riddler, new one from Edge of Eternities. When it enters, draw a card, and then as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in your hand, if you would draw a card, you draw that many +1, and you can play this for 2 mana. So with Helga, you spend 2 for this, warp it. Helga's going to trigger because a creature spell does cost 4 or greater, and then you'll get to draw a card. It'll enter, you'll draw a card. Avatar of Growth has each player search for up to 2 basic lands, put them on the battlefield. It only costs 3 mana. This thing's probably just pretty good. Might put that one on my list as well, especially triggering Helga. Deadeye Navigator. Big old thing that lets us combo with Peregrine Drake, all that stuff, get infinite mana. Woodland Bellower, Great Whale. This is a Great Whale Palinchron event. Let me tell you, there's some balling stuff happening at this event. That one, ETB, untap up to 7 lands. It's a worse Palinchron, but if you want a worse Palinchron, you got it. Null Drifter, again, lines up with Helga. This deck is sick. Tashana, not the last one of these, we'll see too. ETB, you draw cards equal to the number of creatures you control, and then you have no maximum hand size. Awesome, awesome deck. We got Torsten in here. We're playing casual, basically, guys. Sorceries, we got the Finale, Nature's Rhythm, Scrying, Search for Glory, which is going to let us search for a snow permanent or a legendary card, most likely. Savine's Wreck, Wargate, Common Bant stuff over here. And then Last March of the Ints. 8 mana, uncounterable. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, and then put a number of creature cards from your hand on the battlefield. Very often, it's going to be like 3 or 4, depending on how big your Helga is. And then it could be, up to like 7 or 10 or however big your, we got a 7/7 here. Anything you get any bigger than that, you get to go crazy. And then you also have massive creatures that get to go into play. And this thing is a great, not really even a force check. It's a Sink into Stupor or MBT check because it's uncounterable. Instance, not too many. We got to find room for our creatures, right? But Crop Rot, Dispel, Silence, Swan Song, Fierce Snap, Force of Will, no Force of Negation. We're on Once Upon a Time. It's pretty cool. Artifacts, just 1. Soul Ring. These people live a life that I need to see what's going on over here. Sprawl, Wild Growth, and then the Food Chain. And we have 30 lands, including our Cradle, a couple extra basics because we got to search for them, right? So not that many, just the 3. There's no snow covered ones. You literally have a snow permanent in this, or snow card in this deck in Search for Glory. So those should be snow basics. It is actually mechanically better in this scenario, as long as you don't mind gaining life. But yeah, very, very cool, big Simic style deck. Japan is really thriving with this archetype too. But then we got to snap back to reality. We still got Tymna, Kraum in this format. Going over the first of a couple of these that we're going to be looking at here. 11 creatures on the lower side. Esper, Mockingbird, Ragavan. We got the Fairy Mastermind, Grand Abolisher, Voice, Ranger Captain. So all 3 of the pretty good Abolisher effects. Otho, OBM, Thoracle, none of the Facebreaker, Delny, none of that shenanigans. We're keeping it very cheap on the creatures. We do have a Wheel and Deluge. I think you have to run board wipes in a format like this if you're not playing a pure hardcore turbo deck. Tutor, Sevrek, and then the Wheel. No Meanbet, no Praetor's Grasp, none of that. 33 instance, very heavy on it. So a couple that stand out. I think Offer is quite popular over there. We got the Orange Champ, Reign of Filth. We are on Psych Rift, which isn't a huge staple at this point in this deck, but still quite good. Games get slower, the better it gets. And we are on the Gifts as well as the Intuition, and we're still on Nas deck. 14 artifacts. I really like the inclusion of Grinding Station, and we are on the One Ring, and then just a bunch of mana rocks, notably no Wishclaw Talisman. Enchantments, Tithe, the stuff you expect. There's no Necro, no Steel Enchantment, none of that so far. 28 lands, so on the higher side. We got the Cavern Tomb, Watery Grave, no Surveil lands. We got on City of Traders as well. So pretty straightforward TNK. The main thing being missing a couple creatures that you might expect to see. It's on the low side of that. Is on a single wheel, no meme bet, stuff like that. Just more bounce spells, another extra silence effect here and there. The ability to kind of go bigger and have more gas and more ways to win with like grinding station. Next up, we got another TNK. This one a little bit heavier on the creatures. We've got the DRC here, Fairy Mastermind, Ledger Shredder, Loyal Apprentice, and Facebreaker. So we're definitely leaning more into the Tymna plan, right? Was Lotho even in the last one? Frick, I didn't do a Lotho check. I don't think it was. Metamorph, which is not super popular right now. It's like the feminine stuff you almost never see, but Metamorph still pops up. Sorceries, DT, Sevrek. Do have the J Will here. No wheel, no board wipe. Instance, we got Culling the Weak over here. On the Reign of Filth. Also on the Flood Maw. No Orm's Chant, but we're seeing Born, Final Fortune. No gifts, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Brolic Gnaws. Artifacts, we're on the Wishclaw Talisman this time. No One Ring. Different selection of mana rocks. The LED Member. Enchantments, we got Dress Down here as another option to deal with creatures. Seems like a good meta call based on what we've seen so far. Lands 28, which is on still the higher side. Pretty similar mana basis. Here, no City of Traders, still in the Cavern of Souls like the last one. No wild tech in the TNKs so far. Looking pretty normal with just a different selection. We don't usually see like the Loyal Apprentice over here too much, but stuff like Facebreaker, DRC pops up. Next up, we've got our first Japanese Vivi, which is the only one of this event, actually, but first they get to cover. And we'll get to see what they're working with. I already see something odd. Narset Parto Avails, shutting down some of our opponent's abilities to draw. Could be useful. Could be like a free roll on the Vivi. Also, it does let you dig fairly deep with the Vivi. Gonna be pretty good. Then we've got Tezzeret. We'll have to see what our packages of stuff we can tutor up with Tezzeret. But so far, just a colorless Planeswalker that has relevant text and pays for himself most of the time has been very good. Creatures not too heavy on them, though we are expensive on them. Ragavan, Mastermind, Tandem Lookout. Niv Mizzet Visionary we've seen pop up. It's kind of, I think, already starting to fall out of favor as a pretty over-the-top way to do stuff with Vivi. It's just so expensive. We also have Niv Mizzet, the old 6-drop 6-pit boy. Quite powerful as well. Doesn't synergize the same way, but also does just straight up win the game with a Curiosity effect. Hullbreaker Horror is fairly common in Vivis as an outlet. And then we got Usury, which is 3 mana when it attacks. Choose a number between 1 and 5. Flip that many coins. For each flip you win, draw a card. For each flip you lose, deals 2 damage to you. You win 5 flips this way. You get an Omniscience effect till end of turn. I think to just find gas for Vivi is like a part of your setup turn. That's actually probably pretty good. Drawing like 2.5 cards, you know, something like that. Because like Vivi, your life total is not really super heavily getting pressured. This one's not on like Treasonous Ogre, stuff like that. I think just as a way to just like draw an extra, 2-3 cards a turn with some crazy potential upside, it actually seems like a pretty smart option. Gamble, get probe, strike it rich, J Will, stuff you see. So we're on the stormier side. Oh, we're on Dragonstorm. Not again, not the Dragonstorm's back. This is the first Japanese event I covered, but had a Dragonstorm list. And used that in the thumbnail. Oh man. So we got a couple interesting things. We're not on Wheel of Misfortune. It's not every wheel. But we've got Twister, Wheel of Fortune, Windfall, Will of the Jeskai, which is like, half of a wheel, right? Days Undoing, which is a wheel, like a time twister that ends the turn. Notably, all the wheels are really powerful with Narset, so we're very heavy on those. We're not on any of the flash thing. Well, because that's the other thing. Days Undoing, if you flash it in, lets you just end that player's turn, which is very, very powerful. Dragonstorm gets us 2 dragons. That's it, but they're really, really good. You only need a swarm of 2. Very clunky spell. So instance, we got lots of interactive stuff you're used to seeing. The transmute stuff for VV, twisted image, like those kind of effects that flip the power toughness. Split second stuff like Siege Smash, which would be quite nice. Lots of free stuff. Rituals like Seething Song. Split card we've got in Invert Invent. So for hybrid is it, you switch the power and toughness of each up to 2 target creatures, which is pretty good with Vivi. And then Invent, which is 6 mana, 4 blue-red. Search your library for an instant card and or sorcery card, reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle. So we can, on an insta, find our stuff, or just, if we have a ton of mana with Vivi, which is pretty likely, go find 2, like a one that makes mana and a dizzy spell, something like that, right? So again, yeah, split card that has 2 relevant effects for your deck. I mean, it seems like a pretty good find. I don't know if other people are using it. It's the first I've seen of it. Artifacts, free, cheap stuff. Vivi loves it. The Sensei Stop, we are on the Manifold Key. She's pretty good with staff and very, very good with One Ring. And it's okay with Sensei Stop too. And then enchantments, 2 curiosity effects, breach and Ristic Study Mystic Remora. We do have the full Breach combo, and then 30 lands again, pretty high. The 4 of them are MDFCs here. A couple basics, Urza Saga. We got the Surveil land, Cavern of Souls on Wizard. Nothing too crazy down there in the mana base, but some pretty interesting decisions. I would like to see some kind of flash enabler, whether it's a Born Upon a Wind or a Flood Caller. That does have some high upside with Days and Doing Mute. It's not necessary, but those cards are just pretty good anyways. All right. This one might be a tough one. I've covered Samwise before, but I'm not that knowledgeable on decks that have 39 creatures in general. It's usually where things start to break down. There's a Market Backwalker guy. What am I doing, guys? Samwise is Selesnya, 2 mana. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you create a food token. You can sacrifice 3 foods, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a nightmare. There's so many cards here that I have to read. This is another one of those decks where there's so many different loops that I'm not going to be aware of that I just can't cover it perfectly. I see stuff you can do with, like, you have like a Tough Cookie and a Jaheira and an Academy Manufactor and an Arcbound Ravager, and you're sacking the Tough Cookie after you make a bunch of stuff, and you bring back one of your guys, like a Market Backwalker. You get a token doubler, like your Mondrak. I see the vision. I don't know all the loops. So let's just go over the cards and put it together best we can. So these 0 mana historic guys, we can use as an outlet at the end for a lot of these, or we can just have them die. We got lots of, like, effects that do stuff. They either can be sacrificed themselves or their food or whatever. Like Hope of Girapur, Haywire Might, all of these can basically kill themselves. Arcbound Ravager can sacrifice their artifacts. Astropeth is when it enters, you create or attacks, you create a food, and when you sacrifice a clear food, she explores. Cloud is going to let us search for an equipment card. Revoker is a hate piece. Sarenth, Steel Seeker is really cool. When an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you look at the top card. If it's a land, you reveal it, put it in your hand. And if you don't, you put that card in the graveyard. So it's going to let you mill over a bunch of historic permanents or get some card selection, get a bunch of lands in your hand. Delny is going to double our Samwise triggers. Hopefully you guys see enough of what's going on here to know that I can't do all this. I can't put together all these pieces. We've got Emil shenanigans going on too. I don't even see a thing that makes mana when it enters. I guess a lot of them do with Jaheira, actually. We can make infinite mana with stupid food tokens in Emil, dude. This is ridiculous. Paragon Took. 1 or more tokens will be created under your control. You make a food token also. You sacrifice 3 food, draw a card. You guys can see where we're going with infinite food tokens, okay? Also got Roaming Throne to double up our halfling triggers. That's pretty fun. Gandalf doubles them. Elishorn doubles them. Teshar has the loops on its own. That's all you're getting from me, guys. I gotta move on. We got Life from the Loam, Nature's Rhythm, Savine's Wreck. All of these work quite well by being milled over, and they all are pretty good with getting stuff into our graveyards. These all fit what we're doing to be a very permanent focused deck list. Only instant we got in the deck is Enlightened Tutor. That is so based. Artifacts, we got 20. We got the LED, Aether Vial to cheat stuff into play, Skull Clamp, which we can definitely loop with, if not go like non-deterministically crazy in a lot of scenarios. Boxing Ring's a cool one. 2 mana. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control the same mana value. And then you can tap, create a treasure token, activate only if you control the creature that fought this turn. So you can have a creature enter, fight, presumably die, make a treasure, bring that creature back by making a bunch of extra tokens. There might be a Boxing Ring loop too, but also just being able to kill your own creatures repeatedly is by throwing them at another guy or use them as removal is just pretty interesting on its own. We got the Lightning Greaves too, to be a haste enabler for our stuff. Duh, that's another equipment. Then we got Mana Rocks, Relic of Legends you're gonna be able to do loops with as we have legends enter the battlefield, tap them down, maybe sacrifice them. We're always on Staff of Completion. At least here, there's very clear synergies with Staff of Completion with stuff like Safi, returning historic permanents to our hand. Clock of Omens. Do we do Clock of Omens Boxing Ring loops? I hope not. I hope that's not the world that I'm living in. This deck is insane. Summoning Materials, 2 and a green. Look at the top card of your library anytime. This is another equipment. I just missed every equipment. Although this is a new card. You gotta forgive me. As long as it's attached, you can cast creature spells from the top, and then the creature can tap for green mana. So it's kind of similar to like a reality chip, but in green. Birthing Pod, great of course. And Ariad's Tipting Apple. When it enters, you gain control of target creature till end of turn, you untap it. So this ETB, untap another creature, is part of it as well. Plus it's the food. That's pretty sick. Enchantments. Mana untappers, Earthcraft, which you're going to be able to loop with, bringing back permanents, have them enter, tap, especially with Wild Growth and stuff on a basic. Trail of Crumbs is 2 mana, ETB, make a food. When you sack a food, you can pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from one, then put it on your hand, put the rest of the bottom of your library in order. Pretty good outlet. And then Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, 3 and a green. When it enters, make a food. Food you control left tap, add green, of course. And then 7 mana, sack it, buff your creatures, equal to another food. You can use that as a potential outlet. 30 land. My head's starting to hurt, guys. We got Iganjo as a land. We're a Mishra's Workshop deck. We have a decent amount of artifacts, and they're pretty high impact, pretty expensive ones. Shifting Woodland's gonna be ridiculous in this deck. I see the vision. I see lots of loops with doubling ET. Like once you get like 1 or 2 doublers, there's so many ways to play a guy. He makes so many things and makes so much mana that when you sack that guy, you get any other artifact back, and then you loop them back and forth to get infinite mana, infinite foods. I see the vision. What the optimal thing to do with this deck is, or how to beat it, or how to mulligan with it, I have absolutely no idea. Very wild deck. The Japanese meta is just green nonsense. These pods must devolve into insanity so quickly. All right, back to something maybe normal, question mark. We've got TNT, 19 creatures. We got a couple standing out. Molt Tender, Allosaurus Shepherd, Basim, who is when you cast a historic spell, draw a card, and you can't be blocked this turn. Triggers only once. I've heard it be pretty good in these kind of decks. We also got Psychic Frog, which is similar. So these sort of like good creatures for like a Tymna plan. When they connect, we're getting more value, or make it easier. Just generating pretty good value anyways. Lotho, we got Devoted Druid, Voice of Victor. The rest of it looking pretty normal. Not on a zillion dorks, just like a decent amount. The Silence Effects, Thorkel, Sorceries, Yuriko. We haven't seen anything Yuriko worthy for this deck so far. And the other decks that we've covered, I'm pretty sure if you Yuriko, you will lose immediately. So I'm very scared to cast Yuriko so far with this deck. We'll see what else we got. The text has nonsense, but basically the entire pod when you cast Yuriko takes turns putting permanents into play until everyone's done. Then we've got Lively Dirge, which is actually a pretty cool option. So notably no Hazel's Brewmaster. So we're just doing Swift Recon, maybe Machine God's Effigy for Devoted Druid. Interesting that you're on the Dirge and not doing that. But we also might be doing other graveyard-centric stuff. Like, presumably we're going to have something big with Yuriko. We'll see. Eldritch Evolution, Praetor's Grasp, Culling Writ, Instance, Reign of Filth. I have not seen in a TNT in I don't know how long. Like, maybe ever. That's wild. Consult, Coin the Week, Cabal Writ, Limdol's Vault. We are on the Born. I think this is the one that's on Necro. It's so wild to see like Born, Necro, Reign of Filth, and then also Mana Drain, Limdol's Vault in a TNT list. Nas is just so unpopular over there. So we are on the Machine Gods, and then Mana Rocks, Wishclaw, Talisman. Is there a big enchantment? There's not. What are we doing with this Eureka? We just put in Silence Effects and a combo piece all at once and just hope that pod doesn't, like, it's just 4 mana. If I have the combo in my hand, I win. Might not be that bad. Swift Recon, Carpet, Necro, Ristic Mystic. I mean, we are just like a Necro, Nas, Turbo, TNT shell as it is. Psychic Frog is odd too. We're almost built to do more graveyard stuff than we actually can. I'm surprised it didn't go into like Razakats or something like that. You seeing more on the top end would make so much more sense with the Eureka. But Eureka on its own can just win you the game if it resolves. So pretty good. It is like a way to break mana. They're definitely looking at how they can break mana over there in a way that is riskier, especially in a deck like this. If I just put out Abolisher, infinite mana combo, there's not much you can, even if it's just the infinite mana combo, not much people can do. 33 lands. I guess the Reign of Filth is going to be pretty good, but our Nas Necro deck, I don't know how good that's going to be. E-Zone, Mistrise Village, lots of shocks, Starting Town, Talon Gates of Madara. Very interesting TNT list. Like, it isn't that crazy. It's like maybe 10 cards that are just like odd. And they're even in different directions too, like the Mana Drain is odd, but it lets you like sit around and hold that mana. I've been saying I think Nas is just probably fine in TNT because it's so expected of you to sit around holding up mana. It's definitely an interesting approach to doing it. I'm curious how well like a card like Eureka just ends up playing on average, even in a more efficient list like this. Then last up, before we get to our top 4, we got a Yuriko, who said their best card was Louis Swat Sacrifice. All right, we got Kaito. Been decently popular. All right, so we got lots of these Yuriko stuff. Cheap, evasive creatures. Maelstrom Wanderer. Ilvoid Galeblade is the new one. Blue, flash flying. 2 sack it, draw a card. Nothing else too wild at the 1s and 0s. Got Satoru, Ghostly Pilfer, Tetsuko, Dalkin Aether Mage for our wizard cycling. Thoracle, Timeline Color is another new one. Black Haste. You may cast this card from your graveyard using its warp ability. So we have like a recursive, cheap, hasty creature. Our lines up pretty well. Street Wraith, are we Doomsdayan? We are Doomsdayan. The Japanese players are so sick. Other value ninjas. So nothing too crazy up here. Some new additions. You know, there's lots of stuff that goes in and out. Sorceries, we got the Git Probe, also breaking our pile. Couple big Earth spells. Temporal Trespass, the Step Through, Seagate Restoration, Temporal Mastery. DTM still no Diabolic Intent. We've got Abjure, that's a fun one. Blue sack a blue permanent to counter target spell. Offer Brainstorm, the Louis Swat sack. Rotten Reunion, black, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. And it has flashbacks. We got a little bit of graveyard hate. Limdul's Vault to get those big stuff on top. Felder Profane, Rawlik, Flare of Malice. Snuff Out, Consigned to Oblivion, Commandeer. Lots of the control-y Yuriko stuff we've come to expect. There wasn't a Gush, so none of that, but still are the Doomsday pile deck. 8 artifacts. Chromox, Petal, Mamber, Mox Diamond. Sometimes they don't go as heavy on some of these. Soul Ring, we're not seeing a hate piece like Curse Totem, Null Run, any of that. And we do have Aether Vial to cheat our creatures into play and make them uncounterable. Enchantments, I like this one. Mystic Ristic and then Black Market Connections. We're just going to make us a 3/2, which will be a ninja. Get us a treasure, draw a card. 29 lands. Pretty high. A couple interesting ones like Horizon of Progress, which you can spend 3 to tap it, put a land into play. Or, spend 1, sack it, draw a card. Underground River, Sharding Town, nothing else too crazy here. So just Doomsday, Yuriko with a couple newer cards that we just come out of Edge of Eternities. Nothing else too crazy here. All right, next up, breaking into our top 4. This is what I've really been excited about. I even went and shared this early in the Rograkh Discord to be talking about it. I've been goldfishing it a bunch. We've got the first Japanese Rograkh Thrasios we got to cover on this channel, and it is so freaking cool. 41 creatures. It's another one of those decks. Just in the Planeswalkers, we have Kiora, which has been a playable -1 untap a land, or whatever, untap target permanent. And then when a big creature enters, you can draw a card. Tezzeret is just a playable card in this deck. You should consider running it in general if it makes sense in your list. We got 41 creatures. Mana accelerant creatures, which we have like 8 of. Cloud Fairies counts in that too, whatever. More on the combo oriented side, but like 8 early play accelerants. Other stapley cards like the Clones, Ewit, Spellseeker, Sowing Mycospawn, Cannon, stuff like that. But we're also actually a red deck, so we've got Sticker Goblin, Treasonous Ogre, Kiki Jiki, Zealous Conscripts, which Zealous Conscripts is like at the bare minimum let you untap your Cradle. It's just actually a pretty decent card. On top of other stuff it gets to do, it has an infinite combo here. But we are a true big mana deck with big creatures, so we've got the Peregrine Drake I mentioned earlier, Deadeye Navigator to go infinite, Disciple of Frailes, which is just a powerful MDFC, but in this deck, it's ETB sack a creature and you draw cards equal to its power. We have 12 12s in this deck. We're a Galta Stampede Tyrant deck. Other big stuff, Woodland Bellower, which is going to go get us a non-legendary green 3 or less. Pretty often it's going to be the Fierce Empath to go tutor another big creature. We are running a Tali, like the OG Bounty House list. Great Whale and Palancron. Hullbreaker Horror, which is just a very good Rograkh card in general with Rograkh. Nyx Bloom Ancient, which we do see in some of the current Rograkh lists still. Not too many of them, but they pop up every now and then. They basically win when it enters. Another Tishana. Galta, which is really, really good when your deck has these creatures. Galta is 8 mana ETB, put all the creatures in your hand into play. It usually wins. Tidespell Tyrant and Hullbreaker Horror, Palancron, Great Whale, Nyx Bloom Ancient. You just go bonkers. Then we got really hard to interact with. I think this is where the deck really shines, is how hard to interact with it can be. Maelstrom Wanderer having double Cascade on an 8-drop. Pretty tough to deal with. Not really something you can answer that well. They're just getting the value out of it. And then Apex Devastator, 10 mana, Cascade, 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 Cascade. We are going huge. We're going absolutely bonkers. In terms of combos, in just the creature package, we'll get to the rest. We've got the Cloud of Fairies, Peregrine Drake, Grey Whale, Palancron stuff with Deadeye Navigator to go infinite. We have Kiki Jiki, those conscripts as an outlet at the end. Maelstrom Wanderer will also let us gives all our creatures haste, so we can make our creatures infinitely large with Generous Patron to punch everybody to death. Generous Patron also just a fantastic flip. A lot of times it's been quite good. Extra clones get a lot better when you start having cards like Palancron and Great Whale enter the battlefield. Atali already was so powerful there. Wood Elves is a really interesting one that the more I've goldfished with this, the more I'm liking. I've been thinking about the Nature's Lord 3 visits types of effects in general, and just putting that on a body for an extra mana. Sometimes it'll be awkward, but land ramp plus a body is kind of lining up to be exactly what we want for another Radagast deck. Yeah, and then obviously we can do Hullbreaker, Tidespell Tyrant, infinite stuff. We can flicker a Tali forever to make infinite mana. We have so many different ways to win. So sorceries, we're going big, and we're going big, and we're going big. So Sylvan Scrying to go get our Gaia's Cradle. Notably, again, this is not a Breeze Caller deck. I do think it should be. I'm pretty certain. I'm going to have some takes on this. And again, I'm probably going to build my own version of this and maybe do a video on that and some ideas for it if you're interested in this. I do think this is like a real archetype of Rograkh that you could see. Is it the best thing? This version, I don't think so, but could something like this really pop off and expect to do decently well? I actually am starting to think yes. So we got Jessica's Will. We're going big, of course. Show and tell. We have lots of things that will go absolutely bonkers. 3 mana, Nyx Bloom Ancient, or Great Whale, whatever. Just Yuriko goes crazy. Natural Order starts to make a lot of sense in a deck like this. Temp with Discovery. This list isn't constructed in a way that I think breaks Temp with Discovery as well as it could. One of the main tweaks for this list that I would have, kind of skipping ahead a little bit, there is no Deserted Temple, no Manamo, so we don't really have super breakable extra lands after we get the Cradle. One thing when I was playtesting this list I found was I kept getting into spots where if I had a Cradle Untapper as a land, I would be able to send another win attempt or push harder, make an even bigger term. And I think that's just like a must run. It's just too free to run Deserted Temple, especially at this high of a land count. You can find the room for it. Temple Discovery can just be quite good. A lot of times this deck too, when you spin, you're gonna make mana in general with Rograkh, right? But especially with these Cascade variant, where you're able to like get more creatures on the board, and then if you also hit a way to get a land and get like another 1 or 2 mana, fire off your Cradle Untapper, right? Like just getting a Snap or a Cloud of Fairies, whatever. I don't even know if this deck's on Snap. It's not. It probably should be. Creative Technique is 5 mana. Demonstrate, so you can let an opponent copy it, and then you shuffle your deck, reveal cards from the top until you get a non-land card, exile that card, and then play it for free. It's kind of like Super Cascade. It basically is like you get to a Tali flip twice, but there's a shuffle in between it. So that's the difference between like Cascade, right? Pretty powerful though, especially coming down at 5 mana is really easy to do like turn 2-ish, especially like you got a card like J-Will, you can do it turn 1. Same thing with like Call Forth the Tempest and a Tali. Like the red cards are easier to cheat. Same with the green. The toughest part is blue. Genesis Storm, which is 6 mana, copy it for each commander you've cast this game. So the expected thing is you're going to get 3 of these when you cast it, potentially like 4. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent, put it into play. Doesn't get you the Cascade triggers, but gets you a Hullbreaker Horror or a Galt or whatever. Mind's Desire, similar deal. Call Forth the Tempest is 8 mana, double Cascade. Last March of the Ends puts everything into play. We're just big and hard to interact with. Again, double Cascade is hard to deal with. Mind's Desire is hard to deal with. Genesis Storm copies. Creative Technique copies. Last March of the Ends. This stuff is just really, really, really hard to interact with, on top of like creatures being hard to interact with. And since we got 3, there's no counter spells in this deck. Prop Bright, Mystical Tutor, Worldly Tutor. We're balling. I don't think it's correct, but it's good. Artifact 7. I think you could go a little different with some of these. You could get your Lotus Petals, whatever. You don't want too many permanents that aren't good hits off of some of this other stuff. But Relic of Legends is great in this kind of list. I really like it here. We were trying to accelerate, and the fixing, especially in a 3-color deck, is really good. Seems great here overall. Candelabra might be worth it. It's kind of tough to say. We don't really like spin Thrasios, right? We don't have like a Seedborn Muse. We don't have interaction. You never want to pass, basically, holding up stuff. And then enchantments, we are a value food chain deck. And it's actually pretty good. I've had games where I play a bunch of nonsense. Apex Devastator hits food chain. It makes me 11 creature mana. It's actually pretty good. And then Overgrowth we saw earlier, and then Sneak Attack. Another way to cheat our creatures into play. 31 lands. Again, I'd like to see Deserted Temple, if not a Manamo. We're on Talon Gates. Cradle as it is. Breeze Caller is good enough. Put it in your deck. The Yavimaya Arbor Elf thing, I like, especially in a deck like this that isn't trying to go very long and give our opponents opportunities to also do the same thing. And also the Yavimaya fixing is way more relevant in a 3-color deck. We're not Earthcrafting, so I don't even know how necessary the basics are, but our opponents are running, like we've seen cards that have you search up for basics. So it's not bad. I think it's pretty free to run them, but you could consider Earthcraft too. It's probably just good enough. This is probably my favorite deck I've ever got to cover. It is so cool, and it has play tested so well so far. I am really excited to try a deck like this. I really want to try my own. I want to try something like this. Lots of people I've shown this to are just like, I want to put it together. Again, I had some critiques of it. A couple things I would change. I do think you want at least a little bit of interaction. Even if it's just like less than 5 pieces of interaction, I still think you want like Fierce Swat, Flare of Dupe, right? Or whatever. You probably want more than this. I don't think you have to go that crazy on it, but this archetype, I do think could be a real thing. Cards like the Starfield Vocalist out of Edge of Eternities have been like so powerful in this kind of deck. I definitely think there's something here. And even in just your regular Rograkh list, I'm probably going to be trying Generous Patron. I think it's just great. Wood Elves, I'm considering. Radagast, I'm thinking about, but it's a little bit more awkward, I think, in the traditional Rograkh list. But I definitely think this could be very real as a deck, and it's awesome. Next up, we're going to talk about the previous God of Commander, which was the Najeela player who won the last event. They won with a pretty 5-color, good stuffy Nas Najeela list. I think this one's probably going to look pretty similar. The best Dorks, Mockingbird, Tinderwall, Silence Effects. We do have the Ledger Shredder, which I don't think I've ever seen in Najeela. The Najeela cards in Derevi, Samut, and Grim Hireling. Voice of Victory, a great upgrade out of Tarkir for this deck, obviously, making warrior tokens. Although, they don't really trigger Najeela, but especially once you start activating Najeela, it gets crazy really fast. Sorceries 5, no board wipe, which we are creature dependent, but gosh, I feel like almost every deck needs a Fire Covenant or a Deluge. Gamble, Rite of Flame, DT, Diabolic Intent, Savine's Wreck, no Wheel Effects, no Creature Tutor, none of that. Although we do have Summoner's Pact here, and Slaughter Pact, and Pact Negation. We're triple pacting. Offer Chain, Dark Writ. We are on the Culling the Week. We are a Metamorphosis Born Final Fortune deck, as well with Chance for Glory, so probably Necro. Also a Necro, Nas. Just a pretty good 5-color Nas package that I think like most of these decks should run. It's one of the strengths of this kind of deck, is being able to go very deep and then Metamorphose for either Born or Final Fortune with your mana left over. Lots of opportunities to go very deep on a Necro. Our fast mana are 2 5-color rocks. We are in the One Ring 2, which is not that common in Najeela, and especially not the Nas Necro versions. 4 enchantments we expect. 28 lands. Again, even the Turbo Ur decks are higher count over there, which we kind of expect with Najeela anyways. City of Traders, fetches, duels, 5-color stuff, and then Ezome. We had Crop Rot too, right? So Crop Rot. So having that 5-color post-Necro package that we've kind of come to expect. Then again, in our top 4, we got another Najeela deck. We have this one actually having to play through the event. Again, the previous God of Commander that we just covered. He just kind of gets to go straight to the top 4, how their tournaments are structured. This one went through the Swiss rounds. Here we got a bit different of a creature pack. Oh man, this takes me back. Mindblade Render? Good lord. So 1 Dork. That's quite different. No Deathrite Shaman, no Hierarch, really odd. Tinderwall, Mockingbird, Esper, Ragavan. Mindblade Render, which is whenever your opponents are dealt combat damage, if any of that damage is dealt by a warrior, you draw a card and lose a life. Old Najeela staple. Like when I started playing, this is what Najeelas did. Oh man, makes me feel old. Then we got the Voice, Derevi, Kutzel, Samut, which we didn't see the Kutzel in the last one, Grim Hireling. Here we're seeing Kutzel over Granabosher or Ranger Captain. Sorceries, we got the Gamble, Rite of Flame. We're at Greenstone Zenith here too, just for Derevi, Samut, Kutzel. I mean, that's pretty, or the Dork Shoes, they're pretty good. Kind of similar to why you run Summoner's Pact. Here on the Warrior's Oath for extra turn effect as well, Sevrek, Imsil, so a little bit heavier on the sorceries. And then it's also on Beseech the Mirror, which you can sacrifice Najeela tokens too. Just the 2 packs here, no Slaughter Pact. Calling the Week, we're on Noxious, Orim's Chant popping up again in this event. Days in a 5-color deck. If you got it, you got it, dude. I guess you're just balling like that. Worldly Tutor. We are on Born Final Fortune. No Chance for Glory this time. We're also Intuition Gifts on given deck, so we're leaning a little bit more into the Breach package. Or just Sevrek and Najeela combo cards, right? Like Sevrek and Derevi. Kutzel also. Really interesting. Nas. The fuck is it? Patchwork Banner? Okay, so fast mana, a 5-color rock, Grim Monolith, which is not popular in Najeela at all. Or I think it's the first Grim Monolith of the entire event I've seen. And then Patchwork Banner, which is 3 mana, choose a creature type, they get +1/+1, and it's a 3 mana rock. So an Anthem for Warriors, and it's a mana rock, okay? In our Nas, Gifts Ungiven, Final Fortune Warriors. Hey, we're beating people to death too, I guess. And then we are on One Ring. Enchantments, we got a couple more with Carpet, Smothering Tithe, Necro. So odd to see, like, when I see Days and then heavier emphasis on, like, the gifts, Savine's Wreck stuff and Noxious Revival leaning into the graveyard. I'm not also thinking like, yeah, you know what else would go really well with this? Patchwork Banner. And maybe it does overlap, like, but it's just like such different parts of the plan there. And then 29 lands is still very heavy. We've got the E-Zone. Mistrise Village too. How does this mana base function? Tarnished Citadel? Pendlehaven? Pendlehaven can't be right? But we're Days 5-color deck. Are we supporting this? Wow. How many islands do we even have? They're just the 4 you would normally have, the duels. And Pendlehaven, Mistrise Village, Beseiju. We had to fit in the Pendlehaven over Otawara. It's just better. Najeela players, you know what tech to pull out of next. And then our new God of Commander, the, I believe, 6-time winner of this event, Ryuji, on Tymna Kraum. There's 12 of these things. He's won half of them. That's insane, which you do get a little bit of a bonus because he was on top for a while, right? So it's easier to just come and win 1 game. absolutely wild run over there. Creatures, we got 15. We are on the Loyal Apprentice here as well. Lotho, Voice. We're on Delny and Facebreaker. Fairy Mastermind, Bowmaster. So nothing standing out too much again. Loyal Apprentice, maybe just a little bit more popular over there. Tymna Plans, I like it a lot with Delny. 8 sorceries. So we got the Jessica's Will and Praetor's Grasp. The only thing really standing out here. No wheel. Innocence, we've got the Culling the Weak. Bluster, another Orm's Chant. Okay, so that's starting to pop off over there as well. I did notice in a lot of these pods, it was fairly common, in the top cut especially, that you could get into pods that were kind of saturated with players who either were sans blue or were super low on interaction. And so you were pretty heavily rewarded for just having an extra silence to hit the like one player who was actually likely to have anything for you. Reign of Filth, another Sight Grift, Final Fortune. No gifts and given here. We're on the Intuition, of course, Deadly Rollick. Force Naz. No One Ring. We are on the Wish Claw here with the 2 5-color rocks. Another Dress Down player. Again, I think Dress Down was a really, really good tech choice in an event like this with big, wild creature decks. 28 lands, including Cavern of Souls, City of Traders, Fire of Industry. Just good 5-color mana base. So yes, for the 6th time winning the God of Commander event. Let me know down below which of these deck lists was your favorite. I am very clearly biased, and my deck of the video is certainly the Rograkh Japanese Show and Tell list. I love this new Rograkh archetype. Rograkh Show and Tell, I'm going to be trying my own list of it, whether you guys want a video on it or not. Let me know if you do, but I'm thinking about trying that. Malcolm Thras, maybe a couple other things. Let me know. Let me know which of these is your favorite. Japanese players continue to just show up and do the coolest stuff ever. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, go play cEDH. Have a good one, everybody.